Alright guys, welcome to Insight on Kamba TV with Odema Yusuf, and today we are celebrating democracy. We were talking about Democracy Day, Abiola saga, and how Nigeria was able to overcome that state during that time. And I'm not going to be doing this alone. I have Dr. Bamaiyi Agoso. So am I very much correct, sir?
Yeah, you got the name right. Thank you for having me.
All right. He is a social analyst and also a political analyst. So, sir, we're talking together on this show today, basically democracy on Democracy Day and also Abiola saga. We know June 12th, 1992 was a very big story in Nigeria. So I don't know, in your own understanding, can you just brief us a little on what happened then and how we were able to fight that battle?
Well, since independence of Nigeria, we experimented a few times with democracy since the military came in and had a long extended stay in power. By 79, there were elections. Obasanjo handed over to Shagari, and then 83, Shagari was overthrown by Buhari. In a palace coup, Buhari was overthrown by IBB. That's Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, and he kept changing. He made a promise he was going to hand over to civilians, but he kept changing it. Eventually, elections were held. Those elections were disqualified because there were lots of corruption and all that. He went ahead, brought in two parties, the Social Democratic Party and the National Republican Convention, and built secretariats for those parties all over the country, all the local governments and the state headquarters, and also sponsored part of the campaigns and all that. The desire was to avoid corruption, which he spoke about. Abiola actually contested for because the people who ran for the initial election were disqualified. So Abiola came out under SDP, won the presidential ticket against Kingibe and Atiku. It was keenly contested between him and Kingibe. When he won the presidential ticket, he took Kingibe to be his running mate. Bashir Tofa won the NRC. Then we went into elections. 93 was June 12th. We had the elections. This election was adjudged to be the freest and the fairest election in Nigeria. Abiola ran alongside Kingibe, and then Tofa alongside Sylvester Ugo. Eventually, Abiola won. And he even defeated Tofa in his home state, Kano. Won several states in the north, in the east, and in the south. Met all the requirements. So the declaration was going on. A particular group went to court to try to stop it, to stop the elections initially. They did not succeed. Eventually, they succeeded in stopping the announcement of the results. That was how the June 12th saga started. Because Abiola protested, he went abroad, garnered international support, came back, declared himself president. At that time, IBB was out of power, and Ernest Shenokon came in for what is known as the interim administration. But he was pushed out in a palace coup by Abacha. Abacha was in power when Abiola declared himself president.
That's serious.
He was arrested and stayed in prison. So there were lots of agitation. I was in the southwest that time. Anytime it was June 12th, it was a very difficult time. But a lot of agitations went on. Nigerians, Nadeko, all kinds of people. Lots of Nigerians went into exile, including people like Tinubu, Shoyinka, and some other people who had to leave the country because they were under threat of arrest. And while Abiola was in prison, Abacha died. It was June 8th, 19. If I remember very well, it was June 1998.
Yeah, I can.
Then a month later, almost exactly a month later, 7th of July, Abiola also passed on. He was actually on the eve to his release.
Wow.
From prison when he passed on. He was house arrest actually when he died, and that brought in Abdusalam.
Yes,
Abdusalam Abubakar started another transition. He did not waste time. He was very clear he was not going to stay. So he supervised the elections, which resulted in the election of Obasanjo. Obasanjo was in prison, was set free, eventually became the presidential candidate for PDP, and won the elections against Falai. Olu Falai was sworn in on the 29th of May, 1999, and that's how the Fourth Republic started. Fortunately, we are running it up to now. But let me say this, since we're talking about Abiola, that if not for what happened to Abiola and the kind of support he garnered across the country during the elections, the June 12th elections, and the subsequent events, we probably would be telling something else now, because it appeared like the military was not ready to move away.
Definitely, sir. Yeah.
But the agitations that followed June 12th eventually
struggle and everything
eventually made 1999 possible. Obasanjo came into power. We started celebrating Democracy Day right from that time, the year 2000, on the 29th of May. And but President Buhari, when he came into power in 2018, shifted the date. He thought that the deserving date is the 12th of June. So since
to honor
Abiola,
so he has to make
he gave him the title that only the president of Nigeria can have, the GC. What's this title now? GCFR, posthumously, and then shifted the date for the celebration of Democracy Day from the 29th of May to June 12th. So that's why we're here today, celebrating that.
So that means you can actually say Abiola is an icon for democracy.
Yeah. Abiola is a true icon and a true hero for democracy in Nigeria. And what I'm saying is not reflected only in the Southwest, because there are people who will tell you that he's a hero in the Southwest. No, he's a national hero. He's a true national hero. His selflessness and the kind of sacrifices he made, and his family. Remember, Kudirat, his wife, was assassinated as a result of this. His business was systematically dismantled by the people in power. Then his shipping lines, his Concord newspaper, everything. He lost virtually everything just to ensure, and he stood his ground because the offer was there on the table. Give up your mandate, and we'll let you go. And we reimburse you. We will pay you back all the money you spent for the elections and all that. But he said no. The mandate belongs to the people, not to me. As far as I'm concerned, only a hero can make that kind of sacrifice. You lose everything to ensure that your country is democratic. He's a true hero. It's a true hero.
Wow. It means celebrating him today, what it's a lot, and then we have to celebrate him. We're going to a short break right now, and then we'll come back shortly to continue. Alright, people, we've been talking since on Democracy Day, celebrating Abiola as an icon in Nigeria for the strength of democracy. And I've been here with Dr. Agoso Bamaiyi, one of our strong political analyst and social entrepreneur. So you're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir. We've been talking about Abiola since and Democracy Day, and you've dished so many from your wealth of knowledge. You've talked to us on it, and I have actually learned a lot. So on this ground now, I'd like us to talk about the loopholes that you've noticed in our democracy for today in Nigeria. What are the loopholes that you think we can really amend and fix, sir?
Yeah, there are lots of loopholes, and this is a very important question.
Yes, sir.
I just hope our leaders will do something about these things. Number one is the monetization of politics in Nigeria. The truth is, if you do not have money yourself, or you do not have a strong financial backer, a godfather or something like that, your desire to serve your people, the ideas you have, and your willingness to do the right thing it will die. You will not get there. So because of the monetization of politics, lots of women are out of it. Lots of young people are out of it, and lots of intelligent people full of ideas are also out of it. And that's not to say our politicians are not intelligent. There are intelligent ones among them.
That would have.
But a lot of it is just opportunism and just the desire for power, not the desire for service. Now that is important for us to look at and see how we can remove the monetary aspect and make it easy for everybody to come in and be able to participate. The other thing is the issue of corruption. Nigeria is a highly resourced country. Our human resource, as well as our natural resources, is unmatched anywhere in Africa, and it's one of the 10 best in the whole world. Nigerians as people are so good that they stand shoulder to shoulder with the very best in all professions around the world. We also have the resources, but corruption means a lot of disorder. Nigerian phrase is nyama nyama in the system and all that. As a result, we're not getting anywhere near the best that we can get. The truth is, if we do not deal with corruption, we're not going to get the best out of our country. That title, the giant of Africa, we will just be mentioning it, but we will not realize it. Then we have to deal with issue of sentiments, religious sentiments and tribal sentiments. And then the next thing we need to do is a lot to say, but we really don't have the time. The next thing we need to do is to look at the system of governance itself. The Global Peace Index spoke about 8 factors that indicate positive peace. And for me, if I were to plan for a politician, for a governor or a senator, the sort of things he should concentrate on, I would work around those 8 things. I'll mention them quickly. One is a well-functioning government. We've got to get our government functioning very well in Nigeria. And when the government is functioning well, it simply means that if you go to an office for a documentation, you will get the documentation if you deserve to get it, without having to give bribes, without hassles, without delays.
The file.
That's a well-functioning government. Then, a sound business environment. We've been talking about the ease of doing business. The ease of doing business of Nigeria is one of the worst in the world. As a result, we're keeping out investors. People are not willing to come in and invest in Nigeria, again, because of the corruption, because of the delays, the inefficiencies, etc., insecurity, like you mentioned. We really need to do that. And the third thing is, we've got to come to a place where we accept the rights of others. We're talking about fundamental human rights now. I agree you have rights. I also have rights. I respect your rights. You respect my right. Then we move on to the fourth thing, which is a good relationship between neighbors. Again, this is absent in Nigeria because of a lot of suspicion. If I am a neighbor with a Muslim, he doesn't trust me as a Christian. I don't trust him as a Muslim. Our children cannot play freely and all that. What sort of society are we going to build with that much suspicion, which leads onto all kinds of problems? So we have to deal with that. Another thing we have to deal with is education, because it talks about high levels of human capital. If you want quality human capital, then our educational system must be sound. It must be qualitative, and it has to be available to all the citizens of the country. It disturbs me that in Nigeria, we're not seeing education as a priority. Because anytime we elect a president, one of the first things he does is to appoint himself Minister of Petroleum. In other words, that is their priority. And yet, the richest gold mine in the world is the human mind. That's why you have Elon Musk, you have Jeff Bezos, and others who are leading the world in terms of personal wealth, and yet these people are not digging petrol or anything. They don't own oil wells, but they have brains. They have the ability to think out ideas and all that. If we give our citizens education, and we give them quality education that is based on the system that is referred to as STEM. STEM is S, which is for science, T is for technology, E is for engineering, and M is for mathematics. That gives our citizens practical skills. We were not talking about the huge unemployment we're talking about now. And then, of course, another thing is the free flow of information. Very, very important. We have to deal with corruption. And the last thing is find a system that brings about equitable distribution of resources. Nigeria is one of the most unequal countries on earth. Huge resources are controlled by a small population. The last figures I saw is that 2% of Nigerians' population controls 90% of Nigerians' wealth.
Wow.
2%.
Wow.
Control 90%. Now, if that is not inequality, I wonder what is. The truth of the matter, people ask me when I talk about equitable distribution of resources, how can that be done? Very simple. If the government is willing to, it can plan it in such a way that the same quality of healthcare you get, because we have to work to bridge that rural urban difference. If you are in the urban area, you have access to good education, potable water, good roads, electricity, etc., etc. Rural people don't have access to these things. And yet 70% of Nigerians live in the rural areas. We've got to find a way of making sure that people in the rural areas have access to good health, good roads, good education, electricity, etc., etc. Once they have all that made available to them, then we're talking about equitable distribution of resources. Their children can also aspire to become whatever they want to be in Nigeria, and we will have the greatness we're talking about. A country that has a high level of living standards and balanced distribution of wealth and opportunities and resources. Once we are able to block those things, then we can say as a country that our democracy is working. And, you know, one thing I talk to our political leaders about is, you know, you have politicians who come into office and assume they know everything.
Sure.
So you have the same line of action going on. Everybody that comes in, you know, he first of all, he will throw away everything the previous administration was doing.
That is very true.
You know, attempting to reinvent the wheel. Then he will start his own, and mostly they are centered around infrastructure. We want to build roads so that people will see them and say, yeah, it's during my time this was done. We want to build bridges. We want to build huge buildings and all that. And the truth is that the best thing we can do is to build the citizens. Education. So we need our politicians and administrators to shift their attention to social welfare. You know, social welfare issues, education, health, food sufficiency, food security, food safety, water, potable water, sanitation, hygiene, social equality, social justice, etc., etc. Because all those things deal with individuals directly, and they can be made available to everybody. But you're talking about fantastic airports. How many of our citizens will even ever get there, talk less of flying in a plane? And we put so much money into it that could have gone into education to develop citizens that are sound, citizens that are strong, who in turn will develop our country and give us genuine sustainable wealth. You cannot say you have sustainable wealth no matter how much you are working if you have to bring in expatriates to service your infrastructure and all that, and your people cannot do it because they don't have the education to do it. So we need to take our eyes away from infrastructure and put our eyes on our citizens, our young people, give them education en masse, so that 90% of our young people graduate from secondary school. And the secondary school is so good that even at the secondary school level, they have sufficient skill sets to function. And then maybe 70 to 80% can then go on to university and specialize. That is what we're talking about. To me, that's when I'll be excited that our democracy is working.
Yeah, I think he has said it all, like hitting basically on education and other necessities like good road network and also electricity and everything. I'll go on a short break right now and then we'll come back to wrap up the show. right, people. I know from this wealth of understanding, we've gotten a lot, and I've also learned a lot. Sir, I would like you to give the people your last words now. Now, aside from the governance, now the youth also are also there. They need to hear from you. You pointed out some loopholes that needed to be fixed and needed to be arranged. Now, I would like to talk to the people and talk to the government also. So last words.
I would use the words of W.E.B. Du Bois to round up our discussion. Interestingly, this is one of the first black men that attained a PhD in the United States of America, immigrated to Ghana and became a citizen of Ghana before he passed on in his 90s. He said, and I quote, that we should not judge the wealth of a nation by the number of millionaires, but by the absence of poverty, the prevalence of health, the efficiency of the public schools, and the number of citizens who can and do read worthwhile books. If you look at these things that you mentioned, you have responsibility for the government as well as the governed. I mean, make sure that we deal with poverty. And some of those ways we mentioned earlier, as some of the ways we deal with it. Make sure that health is available to all the citizens. Again, some of the things we mentioned earlier deals with these things. And then, of course, you have to make sure that our public schools are functioning, not just private schools. Public schools must function very well. A good administrator, a government that we would clap for, is a government that would concentrate on fixing our schools, bringing qualified teachers, sufficient numbers of teachers, educational consumables, etc., so that our schools down to the grassroots are functioning very well, just like private schools are doing. And then the citizens also, the responsibility of the citizens is to make sure they educate themselves. Our young people should listen to less music and work towards acquiring more skills. They should spend less time on the social media abusing each other and spend more time online to build up skills. Lots of ICT skills that are highly profitable that our young people should be looking for. So don't sit back and wait for the government to come and do something for you. Do something for yourself and make yourself self-reliant. You can start a company eventually and employ other people. And everybody will be, I always say, and I end with this, that the strength of a country is the strength of the individuals and institutions that make up that country. If the individuals are doing well, the institutions are doing well, then the country is doing well. We need our young people to do well. We need our institutions to do well so that we can say as a country we are doing well. Push yourself and don't wait to be pushed.
Wow. All right, the youth out there, everybody out there, I know you've heard a lot from Dr. Bamaiyi Agoso. Like I told him while he came here that I admire his wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure you have also learned from our discussion today. As a youth out there, push out to yourself, learn skills, and also he said spend less time listening to music and watching films and do more with that social media, like learn something from the net, educate yourself and equip yourself so that you can be good tomorrow. Yeah, this is all we can take on the show today. Don't forget, my name is Ojoma Yusuf and this is Insight on Karma TV. Do well to drop your comments, like our page, and also drop anything you know can help the show grow.